welcome everyone that's joining in there today. Welcome to today's ham sandwich. We'll thank Robert again for attending this week and presenting. They've been very successful so far. A lot of great feedback, a lot of good questions every day. So today we're going to focus on the positioning of smartphones or gaming equipment for somebody with cerebral palsy. Well, look, obviously it'll branch out to maybe other people as well that may have other diseases or needs as well that may want to access gaming or their smart devices. So we're going to look at mounting solutions to access, the new adaptive Xbox controllers and gaming equipment that you can use, and smartphones and how you may use a smartphone for gaming, what solutions are available, and then the analysis of different gaming environments where you might want to use your device. So kind of similar theme to a lot of what we've been doing this week. What are the options available, where you might be able to use them, and what kind of solutions are available. So I'll hand over to
Thank you very much, Connor. So to all the attendees, welcome at today's ham sandwich session. As Connor already told you, today's topic is to talk about positioning of smartphones or also gaming equipment, which is in some cases very similar. But I want today to give you a little bit of an insight in a case study that I did with a couple of customers during my last years, and also want to introduce you to a couple of ideas that may be interesting for you. So if you have any special questions in terms of these topics for today, feel free to write them into the Q&A window. And let's start directly with the topics by today. So as I said, we're going to show up what are differences in terms of positioning environments when it comes to mount smartphones in different sizes with different kind of protection cases, what is important for you to know and to understand. Also, when it comes to mount maybe gaming equipment, because, as important as smartphones are in all of our daily lives, also gaming equipment like using Xbox games is a very, very useful tool during these also sometimes tough days with all of these lockdown things. And also people with special needs, people with cerebral palsy or different kind of motor control disabilities have also the demand and the interest in accessing these kind of solutions. And what I want to show you today is a couple of examples, how it can look like, what you can do during installations. But of course, this is not a one-way road, so feel free to write all of your questions as soon as you have them. To discuss this also. So when we are thinking about a person with cerebral palsy, we often see extremely smart people that have this, some of them exactly the same cognitive skills that you and me will have. But also sometimes we have customers with different kind of cognitive levels. So this is an extremely worrying disease, how humans are, also the symptoms of a cerebral palsy can be. Often the movement and the coordination problems are associated with cerebral palsy and included often some symptoms like ataxia, spasticity, rigidity. Many people have problems with the variations of muscle tones. Sometimes their muscle tone is too stiff, too floppy. Some of them have tremors, have problems with coordinating their forces or their power. And I mean, also a couple of our customers that we meet in our daily work have delays in reaching motor skills milestones, such as pushing arms away freely and getting them back, moving them back. So it can be a lot of various motorical issues, but also can be just only a very limited kind of mobility problems. So when it comes to mounting of smartphones for these kind of customer groups, these people, as I said previously, are often extremely smart and intelligent. And also, when it comes to the point on using their smartphones, most people know and understand really, really well how their uncontrolled movements can bring them in trouble, because the smartphone can drop down, the screen can crack. So it's important for them that we find a way to position the smartphone in their environment. Often I see a lot of people located in wheelchairs where they can have their smartphone positioned very, very sturdy and safe, but where they also have the opportunity to position it maybe together with assistant or some technician, depending on the position where they need it. And also it must be very, very strong, because when you think about that, you have a lot of power and want to reach it and cannot. When you want to take your phone and you want to press on a button and you have so much power that you just simply push it over and it drops down, you're constantly feared that it will all the time be damaged. So what we are going to do is, when we meeting customers, or what I do when I meet customers, I always find out and have a quick look onto their motor control skills, try to have a good chat and communication with them about their requirements, what they are expecting, where they want to have their smartphones positioned. And often then, when we are looking at a wheelchair, it could be a power chair, it could be a typical standard or tilting wheelchair, then we are looking always on the functionalities of these kind of wheelchairs that the customer is using. Also, we are taking a look onto what is a good accessible position for the beneficiary to access their smartphones. And often it's really easy to think and to understand what is the position where they need it. And then you need to identify and spot on the customer's wheelchair where you can start to build up a mounting solution with 3 or with 2 single tubes that hold the smartphone exactly always on the same position for the end customer. And here you can see on the left picture the beginning of an installation where we started to install, or where we have installed, the frame clamp on the customer's frame. So now it's always following when he's tilting the seating plate. We have one beginning tube to bring it up into the right height, and then we combining it with 2 or 3 tubes. But often that's only just not enough. And also, when you think about the wide variety of smartphone sizes, different models, when we think about maybe smaller systems, you always need to have an adapter maybe that is quite flexible for the beneficiary to hold all of these different devices. And for that reason, we have developed an universal phone holder system, which is especially very, very well accepted from people with different kind of various needs, especially when they require a very high stability. So the solution, like the universal phone holder that you can see here on the camera, is able to hold up smartphones within a size from 5 centimeter up to 95 millimeters. So it is possible to adjust any kind and to insert any kind of smartphones in a very, very quick way. You have the opportunity to control the buttons on the side to start your phone, to make it louder. You have the camera free and accessible. And also, when you switch between one phone to another one, there is absolutely no problem also to go to a phone with a smaller size without a protective cover or with a protective cover. So this is possible within a couple of seconds, and also it remains inside the holder extremely stable. So when the customer has uncontrolled movement and pushes with a lot of force against the screen, it will hold the smartphone permanently inside. So what we can do is we can combine this smartphone holder with the joint and the tube in a few seconds with 1, 2, or 3 tubes to the customer's wheelchair. And here on the picture, you can see an example out of the 3-tube solution, which allows the customer also to swing the smartphone to the side when they want to enter and exit the wheelchair. And with the young lad that I have met and showed you at the beginning, we found a way with only 2 tubes to install its smartphone on the control position that you can see here on the picture, which is very, very close to its control unit, because he also is using an joystick control system to control and to drive independently with its wheelchair. So he can swing the control unit to the side and will always have the smartphone in front of the control unit. So this is one thing that you simply can see as an example for a customer where he control his smartphone independently. It doesn't matter where he is. And when we need to attach it to a wheelchair, I mean, as you have seen, it's always just a question of sometimes one or two tubes. You can simply install it to an existing mounting bracket. Also, it is possible to be combined with some smaller elements, such as these little mini clamps that you can universal install to every kind of wheelchair. So it only takes an attaching spot on the wheelchair where you can fixate this kind of mini clamp. And with a couple of joints, you are able to position the smartphone maybe also on a different spot when it is necessary. Also, when you need to position the smartphone very close to that, you can remove the little tube and the joints. You can simply use it in combination with some of our floor stands. You only need to detach some of these components, combine it with, let's say, one of the universal joints that we already use here, and can use it also in every height, in every position where the beneficiary needs it in a couple of seconds, which is super easy for the assistants also to handle. Use the smartphone, insert the smartphone again in the universal phone holder, and then you're ready to go to use it also when you're located in the bed. Okay, so this is just a little bit of an insight about how you can install it. I mean, also with some components such as a mini clamp or with flexible elements like these flex bag rods, you can also build up the solutions very, very flexible. So it's always a question of requesting the individual requirements from a beneficiary to see and to understand what they require to be independent in accessing their smartphones good enough. Okay, so I hope we can go ahead to the next topic. So, but when it comes to the need for accessible gaming, also the need from someone with uncontrolled movements is also more or less also the same. Here we see an example from an Xbox, simple Xbox controller that we all need when we want to play Xbox interactive games. I don't know, this is maybe not the newest version. I just only loaned one from my daughter to show this as an example. And as you can see here, the buttons are very, very small. You need a lot of fine motor control skills to control these buttons. So luckily, the company Microsoft brought into, I think, 2 years ago, the new Xbox adaptive controller, which is one adaptive solution where you have on the back side a lot of inserting elements to combine this adapter in combination with switches to control also the Xbox with a couple of switches. And our customers, as I said previously, often have problems with grabbing stuff and having problems in releasing it and extending their fingers again. And when you're looking onto the positioning needs of a beneficiary and think about how many cables you may have positioned on the table, I think that there could be a constant risk for someone to have troubles with also controlling these Xbox adaptive controllers. So what I want to show you are a couple of examples how you can simply combine the adaptive controller with a couple of switches. It doesn't matter if you are located in a wheelchair or if you want to use it in a bed. So there are various different options that are possible. Often we can simply use the same mounting equipment that we are using with the smart. The thing that we need to replace is the smartphone adapter, need to detach the smartphone adapter and need to connect maybe the Xbox adaptive controller with its big switches with the right possible adapter plate. We can also now simply attach the adaptive controller into every position that could be closer to the beneficiary or far away. It could be on a higher position or on a lower position. And when we need to combine it with some switches to control it, we have various different kind of options. We can use universal mini clamps in combination with some flexible tubes when customers want to control it about the movement of his head. Can connect it and position it onto every position for the beneficiary. So when they want to control the Xbox controller about the movement of their head, we can use this component, attach the mini clamp, maybe to the armrest or to a free attachable position. Now we can open the joints, can move the joints and the tubes into every angle and tighten it there. And now we only need to connect the switch cable here with the individual element which makes it possible to play the games. Also, when we need to position gaming equipment on a table, we also have various different kinds, or there are various options to combine these tools together with switches in combination with a table clamp. So also when you need to position the switch control elements within table, you can simply attach these table clamps within a second to a table. Now with the movement of these joints, we can simply move them in every angle that is necessary for the beneficiary, can tighten it there, and also position the switches into every necessary angle for the beneficiary. Can use these elements also again on the rolling floor mount if necessary. So we are very, very flexible in that kind of making switches accessible on a good position for the beneficiaries. So, and this is a little bit like playing Legos, playing like a child play with Lego blocks. So you are freely to decide if you want to use it flexible with a temporary clamp or with a mini clamp, or if you require a solid base that is installed permanently to a wheelchair or to a wall or to a bed. So this is absolutely up to you how much flexibility you need for your beneficiary in terms of these elements. So it would be interesting for me to understand in what kind of situations where do you would like to attach the gaming equipment for someone that you may have in mind, or maybe you have an individual need for positioning smartphones or gaming equipment. Because the opportunities of these switches with wireless switches, with cable switches, with bigger buttons, with proximity buttons is extremely big, and it is always possible to position these various kind of switches in every position for a user to access them freely and good enough. Also on a wheelchair, often it only needs 1 or 2 joints in combination with a fixed possible solution. But there also we have the opportunity to up or downgrade it, however a user will need it. Okay, so that's it in a quick 20 minutes.